Hi, I'm Troy Aikman, and I'm chopping it up with Buck.
Hey, excited to have my buddy and guy that I go way back with, Troy Aikman. Troy and I played at UCLA. We see each other from time to time. We bump into each other on the television, radio circuit. He's of course doing Fox. I'm doing some radio, but it's always good to catch up with him. And we've been trying to put this together for a long time. So Troy, excited to have you here, man.
Well, hey Buck, it's really a pleasure. I mean, I love you to death, and yeah, I haven't seen you as much with the pandemic and the games going the way that they have, but it sure is good to be on. I know you're right. We've been talking about it for a while, so it's a pleasure for me to be here now.
So talk about that a little bit with the pandemic and COVID. I know some people, I got to work some Fox games when I was on site. You, of course, with the big crew always there. But how has that been now with Zoom meetings and you don't get to talk to the guys, and that's a little bit different for me. I'm sure it is for you as well.
Yeah, it's been different, quite honestly, for us for the last 3 years. And I say us, I mean Joe Buck and I and Aaron Andrews and our crew, because we've been doing double duty with the Thursday night schedule. So what that meant was it was almost impossible for us then to meet with teams. Just out of we couldn't go into a town on Friday like we normally would for a Sunday game, because we were just coming off of a Thursday game late, trying to get back home, trying to start studying and watching film. So we haven't met with teams now for the last couple of years. So the pandemic for us was only different from the standpoint that there were no fans at the games, like it was for you and everybody else. But as far as our preparation goes, we had conference calls with the teams that we were covering. Don't feel like it's always better when you do anything face to face, but don't really feel like we missed out on anything. And I speak for everybody out there, yourself and all fans, that hopefully we have full stadiums in 2021.
Yeah, Troy, I mean, I think that's the biggest thing. You and I were talking before. Our kids are in college and having to be hunkered down in different places, or having, just the virtual stuff is totally different. We'll talk about our college career because that's kind of where our paths cross. But it's interesting how much they've had to do and kind of change and morph. I think that's going to maybe right now it's hard for them, but I told my daughter this the other day. I think it's going to help you in the long term. I think you're really going to get something out of this.
Yeah, so your daughter's how old?
She's a senior at the University of Michigan. Yeah.
Okay, so she's a senior in college. So yeah. So my oldest was a senior in high school last year. So from spring break on, she did everything online and missed out on the prom, didn't have a normal graduation, no parent senior dinner. The list goes on and on that she forfeited on, and not just her, but all seniors across the country, across the world. And then it carried into her freshman year of college. So those are two really big years. So my heart really breaks for her and for all the kids that have been impacted by that. And then my youngest is a senior in high school this year. Okay. And so her senior year hasn't been ideal either, but at least here in Texas, she's been in the classroom for the most part. And they've had to have some adjustments, as you can imagine. But her senior year, is compared to my oldest, has been a little more normal. But you're right. I think it's a chance for them and for all of us to kind of take a step back and be thankful for a lot of things. And when we do get back to normal, whatever that may look like, appreciate some of the things that we get to do a little bit more.
Yeah, it'll make us reset. Now, if I go back and reset our time at UCLA, I tell the story all the time. So just bear with me, because it's going to be a long kind of comment, but question. I say I can remember this dude coming on the field because we had heard about you. Back in the day, you didn't have YouTube, you didn't have IG, you didn't have all that, right? But I heard about Troy Aikman. And I saw some games of you at Oklahoma. You had to go find the big reel to find it. But I was like, okay, in control. And then you come on the field and, you're working with Rick or whoever on the side. And I'm like, I told Reggie, I'm like, okay, Reggie Moore, my roommate, you're one of our teammates. I said, Boy, our prayers have been answered, brother. This big dude right here looks straight out of a movie and can slay it. What were your thoughts, though? I always tell what we felt. I've never really heard how you felt in that transition with the transfer and all the back stuff that happened leading to you to get to UCLA.
Yeah, it was a big adjustment, Buck. When I came out of high school, I was originally from California. Mm-hmm. Family moved to Oklahoma when I was in 8th grade, and then when I was graduating from high school, I was just 17. So I was a young senior at 17 years old, and I really I was not heavily recruited. I didn't even have 5 recruiting visits. I had 4, and they were to Oklahoma State, Oklahoma, Missouri, and Tennessee. And really, the best school for me would have been Tennessee, but I really wasn't ready to go that far from home at the time. And I always thought I was going to go to Oklahoma State, and I would have played for Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah.
But I decided in my last recruiting trip to Oklahoma that if I was going to go play college football, I really wanted to play where we had a chance to win. And I mean win big and win a national championship. And so I wasn't real sure, quite honestly, at 17, whether or not I was even good enough to play quarterback, but I thought that I could play at least safety or linebacker or tight end or something,
Yeah.
And then when I got on campus, I realized that, I felt like right away that I thought that I could play quarterback at the collegiate level, but the offense was not really suited for me. And I played my sophomore year, broke my leg. So then when I was looking to transfer, I knew I was going to have to leave the state of Oklahoma, and I was most comfortable with California. So I knew when I took my trip, I'd gone to Arizona State on an official recruiting trip. The next visit was to UCLA, and I knew if I liked it, that's where I was going to go because it was where I was most comfortable. And UCLA had just come off a big Rose Bowl win against Iowa the year before. And so a really talented team. And man, I got on campus and met a lot of people and just felt right at home right away. And so that's when I decided to go to UCLA. And, you mentioned Rick Neuheisel was a volunteer coach, and he worked with me that first year that I was there. I had to sit out. And Reggie Moore, you were big time. You were already there, playing and traveling and doing all those good things. And Reggie and I and a few others, we were over there, just throwing the ball and trying to stay in some kind of shape, football condition prior to me being eligible again to play.
Yeah, well, what's interesting with that, the quarterbacks transfer now, and the transfer portal has changed. So that's a whole different thing. But Troy, I think the biggest thing with it is that your dad had lived in Cerritos, right? Your family had lived in Cerritos and moved to Henrietta, Oklahoma. So that's why that comfort level with California. But I always tell people when I stepped on that campus, I went as a 7th grader for AAU basketball. And I said the same thing you just said. If I ever come back here and have the chance to play, I'm coming to the school. And I had other visits, other trips, got there and same thing. But I think the camaraderie right away to the guys that you were talking about, you got lifelong friends with Tom White, Doug Klein, all of us when your jersey retirement. What was it about UCLA once you got on campus that made it even more and made you we love the school, right? The championship run just this year. Anytime we go back, we're trying to get the program back together. But what was it about it that made you love it so much?
It's a great question. It's one, quite honestly, that I've never really been asked, but it's an easy one for me to answer. And that is at Oklahoma, and you growing up in Texas, you understand kind of the priority that football has over a lot of things. And it was like that. And it was like that at Oklahoma as well. Yeah. And what I really loved about, first of all, the campus is beautiful. The weather's phenomenal. Everything about it just feels good. I was talking to my daughter just yesterday. The eucalyptus trees, just the smell of eucalyptus trees takes me right back to Bruin Walk and on campus there at UCLA. But what I really enjoyed most about it was that we were able to truly be student athletes. That football was a priority and it was important to the university, but not at the expense of the other elements of our life. And so I really enjoyed that part of it, that made a lot of great teammates, great friendships out of those, you included, had a lot of great conversations. I think that just that I was able to just play football, be a student, be a part of the Greek life, and all of that was awesome. And then along the way, Terry Donahue, who I know you think the world of, and as we know, he's in a real battle right now. But I don't hold anyone in higher regard than him, and I just feel like he taught me so much, and I learned so much from him and so many other people that it was just a wonderful experience. I was there 3 years. I wish I had gone there right out of high school. I wish I was there 5 years.
They do too. We all wish you would have too.
It took me 20 years to get my degree, but I had to do that from Dallas, online. But if I could have, I would have stayed on campus for all those years.
Well, Troy, you were slacking all those years. I mean, come on now. And we're going to get to that part too, because that's I grew up in Texas, like you said, so I know wearing the star on your helmet. Not only that, but being a Dallas Cowboy quarterback, just trust me. And I got to tell this story real quick. My grandfather, who was sick at the time, it was either you were an Oiler or a Cowboy. I was more of an Oilers fan growing up because Earl Campbell, living in Houston, of course.
Oh yeah. But
when my grandfather was sick, he was in and out a little bit, and I was visiting him probably one of the last times before he passed. And he loved you, by the way, and he got to meet you in college. But he was just saying, "How's my boy Aikman doing?" He was not feeling well, but all of a sudden he started talking about football, and he said, "Man, UCLA has such a great career. How's my boy Aikman doing?" He looked at me. We talked about it a little bit. Then he went back into the state where he was at, passed not too far after that. But I just remember that, and that was the kind of thing that when you're a Dallas Cowboy, it's like you said that the first year you came back. Remember, you came back, we were working out, and you said, "Bub, they will give me some help." But he said, "Dallas, though, we got a lot of opportunities." That's the first thing I remember you said.
Yeah, it was a fun time too when we started to win. I mean, you really realize the history of this organization and what Roger Staubach and those guys were able to build, and then we carried that on, and it was a magical time. There's no doubt about it. And I was fortunate, when I was coming out of college, there were only 2 teams that I really wanted to play for of the teams that needed quarterbacks. When I looked at the landscape of the NFL and said, okay, who really needs a quarterback? And then of those teams, where would I really like to go play? There were 2. One was Dallas and the other one was San Diego. And I felt that either place would be a good fit. Dallas, I didn't think they were the worst team in football. And I didn't realize at that time really I grew up when I was in Oklahoma seeing the Cowboys and Staubach and how great they were, but they were not good for a long time prior to me coming out of college. And so I didn't think of really the visibility of this franchise so much. I just thought, well, it's a 3-hour drive from where I grew up in Oklahoma. And I thought, well, that'd be nice. And then San Diego would be great because I was already familiar with the West Coast and LA, and I like San Diego. And they had the 8th pick, so that wasn't going to probably materialize. And then Dallas took me. And then, all of a sudden, Jerry Jones is buying the team. And Jimmy Johnson, who I had spurned both at Oklahoma State and then when I was transferring when he was at Miami, all of a sudden he's, and then I end up playing for Barry Switzer again. I mean, Donahue even got offered the job.
Yeah, I remember.
So, I've been living in this Groundhog Day type thing here in Dallas where everybody just kind of keeps circling back around.
Yeah, football is like that. It's so tight knit. And Troy, I think if you go back, Coach Donahue, by the way, I know he's battling. We all, he's always in our thoughts and prayers, and got a lot of Bruins, battling and praying for him. But when you think about that, we knew at the Cotton Bowl, right? So before we leave that, 2 years in a row, and I know you hate this as much as I do. SC, both years, we lose to them, don't get to go to the Rose Bowl. Earlier in the year, we're number 1 in the country, and my junior year, your senior year, can't quite get it done against Washington State. I know how you are about losses, and I was sick. We only lost 4 times in your 2 years, 10-2, 10-2. But the 2 to SC hurt the most.
Yeah.
And then I think the good thing is when we got to the Cotton Bowl, that was home state for me. That was going to be your future home. We're playing Arkansas, and everybody kind of knew. Did you know that week or the week leading up that they were going to take you with their first pick?
Yeah, you remember we practiced there at Texas Stadium, and,
Yeah.
and Tom Landry and Tex Schramm and Gil Brandt were at the practices. And I remember the first practice that we had, I didn't practice particularly well. I threw some interceptions, and Donahue was really concerned. He was worried that the expectations were going to be too much for me. And the next morning at my hotel room, I got a call from Gil Brandt, and he said, "Hey, I just want you to know that it doesn't matter if you go out in this game and throw 7 interceptions. We're taking you with the first pick." And I said, "All right." Well, then we went out, and obviously our defense played great, and we were able to beat Arkansas. But then Jerry bought the team. Jerry didn't own the team yet. So then when Jerry bought the team, that was in the middle. That was between the Cotton Bowl and the draft is when Jerry Jones came from Arkansas and bought the team and brought in Jimmy Johnson. And then things changed a little bit. Jerry was, it was all in negotiation.
Yeah.
I think that deep down they were always going to take me, but in the negotiation, he was saying that, hey, if you don't agree to this, then we'll take that kid from Michigan State, that big left tackle, Tony Mandrich, and said, well. And then, obviously they took me. Hey, my rookie year, I wish they'd taken Tony Mandrich. That wasn't a whole lot of fun out there going 1-15.
Yeah, but remember you came back and you worked because, we would all go back. And then after a while, it became too difficult. You had to stay there. But I think that first year you needed to just decompress a little bit. We hung out, kind of, worked out with us and did some things. But I can remember you vividly saying how much you thought the potential was there.
Yeah.
But you needed that O-line.
Buck, that first year in Dallas, we really had a revolving door. I mean, when we showed up on Wednesday for practice, we'd have a whole different group of players. I mean, it was pretty crazy. We'd get in the huddle, we'd have a different running back, maybe a different wide receiver. And so Jimmy Johnson was really working the wire system and trades and all kinds of stuff that was going on. And I remember that first year thinking, gosh, I mean, I expected a lot more in the NFL. My team at UCLA, I really do believe it. I think the team that I played on my senior year could have lined up and given the Cowboys a run for their money back in 1989.
Well, dude, we remember how many guys we had in that stretch that got drafted or played, Hall of Famers like yourself, and so many guys that have gone on to success. I know from the standpoint of the Cowboys, what was it that when you turned the corner, what do you remember most, or what's the most special thing about those times with the Cowboys? Usually it's players, usually it's the wins.
Yeah.
But what was it for you?
You know what? I obviously there were some great games, and there was a lot of accomplishment on the field, and I'll always, of course, remember the first Super Bowl and the other two that followed, and a lot of the big games along the way. But it's the same for me, really, Buck, as it was at UCLA and even in high school. It really is all about the relationships, and those relationships seem to have more meaning when you're playing well and accomplishing goals that you set out to achieve. But that's when I look back on my career. There was a moment in our first Super Bowl when I threw a touchdown pass to Alvin Harper, and it was at that point in the fourth quarter where I knew that they couldn't come back and beat us. I knew we had just won the game, even though there was still a fair amount of time left. And I remember going over to the sidelines and celebrating with my teammates. And this was the same group that just 4 years earlier, we were the worst team in football. Yeah. And now we were on top of the mountain, and just seeing the exhilaration and the excitement and the sense of pride and accomplishment. That's still, when I think back of my Cowboys career, it's the image that I have in my mind. And, those are special moments, and I still see a lot of these players, and we had a reunion a few years ago, and it was so good. You lose touch. You think you keep up with so many, and then you realize when you have these gatherings that, man, I hadn't seen this guy in so long, and what have you been up to? And those are relationships that are forged forever, as you well know, and they're meaningful. I mean, even when you go a time without having seen somebody, or a time without having talked to somebody, man, as soon as you see them, there's this bond that you just pick right up where you left off. And for those that haven't, I know you have, but for those who haven't experienced that, they may not quite know what I'm talking about, but for those that have, they can certainly relate.
And on the field, we always know intensity. They talk about that with you. I mean, you work hard and you study. I know Peyton Manning gets that moniker, but I always tell people, hey, Troy always knew if I ran the wrong Y option, the way I thought it was going to be, he would throw it and bust our offensive coordinator in the chest. And I think you were doing it just to get him. But realistically, the thing that I always remember is the intensity, competitive nature, and you hated mistakes. And, it was multiple mistakes, not one where a guy would make a mistake and that was done. And the thing with quarterback, I don't think people realize, and you know this from playing it for so long, you can show guys up pretty regularly. But the thing I always liked about you, the calm demeanor, you could cuss me out in your own way, but we had a bond to say, okay, let's move on past that now. I'm gonna get you that first down. And I think you had that with Irvin. You had that with Novacek. You had that with those, had that with Reggie and Mike and all these guys at UCLA, Henrietta even. But people always ask, what is it about Troy Aikman that's special? I said, he can drill it in if he needs to, but the ball is so catchable. And I've seen a lot of great quarterbacks. I've played with a lot of quarterbacks, but the ball was always catchable. How did you laser focus in on where you wanted to go with the ball? I always wanted to know that. We talked about it a little bit.
Yeah, I think early on, because Michael Irvin has kind of said the same thing, that my pass relative to some other quarterbacks was always a more catchable ball. And I know that early in my career, I think it goes back to when I was probably in junior high, that a coach said to me, and it started in baseball, it really wasn't even in football, that never throw a ball without having some place on the guy you're throwing the ball to as to where you want the ball to go. Don't just play catch, pick out a target, whether that's the face, shoulder, but pick out a different spot. And so I'd always work on that. It wasn't hard for me. I think that, and I've said many times, even as an analyst, that I don't know that accuracy is coachable. And although Josh Allen in Buffalo, he showed a lot of improvement. But I think that people have an ability to put the ball where they want to put it, or they don't. And like Patrick Mahomes or Aaron Rodgers, those guys, even when their feet are off balance, they still throw pretty accurately. And Buck, I'll never forget, I was redshirting there at UCLA. And I was warming up, and I was still one of these quarterbacks that just liked throwing it kind of firm, and hard when you're warming up. And young quarterbacks, that's what they do. Everybody wants to show off their arm. I'm constantly telling young quarterbacks when I work different camps, like, hey, this isn't a contest to see who throws the hardest. So the objective is to complete passes. But I remember I was warming up, and I was throwing the ball pretty firm, and Homer Smith came up to me and he said, hey, there's more clubs in your bag than the one you're hitting right now. He says you need to use all the clubs. Use the pitching wedge, the 9-iron, the 8-iron, the 4-iron. And it really it was a description that I'd never heard before, and I've never forgotten it. That then I started realizing, I don't have to throw everything so hard. That I can work on the loft pass and this and that. And then when Norv Turner came to Dallas, my third year, that was a huge part of our offense. Was if a guy's open, just lay it to him. That you don't have to line drive everything. That your margin for error is greater if you have anticipation and you lay it out there. Plus, it's an easier ball for the receivers to catch. And so there were a lot of different coaches along the way that kind of helped me with some of those things.
Homer Smith, the great Homer Smith, so good, so fine. I've never seen a guy draw a circle that was so, and he would get upset with you if you didn't draw the circle. And then he'd go to the board. Oh man, we have a thing. He said Arbuckle with the double move, the Sherrardian or the Flipper Anderson. You remember those days? I loved it. Troy Aikman. You're going to be so good to coach. Now you got to get the ball first, Troy. You got to get the ball first.
you got a good Homer Smith going there. I was only with him that redshirt year of mine.
Yeah. I was only with them really a year, but that second year, and then Axe came in. But the thing is, people, when they leave an impression on you, You never forget that, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
you
right.
had Norv. Any other people stand out that maybe you haven't talked about that had maybe a big role in your career?
Well, I tell you, it's funny that we're talking about Norv. He's actually flying to Dallas today. I'm going to see he and his wife. They're going to spend a couple days here in town, and then we're going to Florida to see Jimmy Johnson. And Jimmy hasn't been taking visitors there in the Keys with this pandemic.
I
but
heard.
He's fully vaccinated, and he's ready to see some.
He's ready to get back to Port Arthur. Hey, tell Mr. Port Arthur, Mr. Beaumont said hello.
Yeah, it's not Port Arthur, it's Port Arthur.
Port Arthur, yeah. We call it the PAT, but you're right. That is Jimmy.
But yeah, we're so I'd say Jimmy Johnson. You know, he obviously had a big impact on my career. You mentioned Steve Aikman a minute ago. I've kept in touch with him. He was perfect, really. I mean, he was the, you know, I never really had that in the NFL, but Axe was the coach who he just really loved to throw the football. And so I took for granted just how good that was. I know Donahue wasn't all that crazy about it, but
we made him look good. We made him all right.
For those 2 years that I got to play at UCLA, to have Axe as my offensive coordinator, who was, you know, really a really smart offensive mind, really understood the passing game, and you know, we got to throw it around, take advantage of your skills and others. That was a lot of fun. So I've been. A lot of people dismiss coaching, and they talk about the talent. I think talent obviously is really important, but I've never taken for granted coaching. I think it makes a huge impact at any level, especially the younger kids.
In the NFL now, you know, I want to be respectful of your time, because I know you're even though it's off season, it's never really off season for Troy Aikman. You're always working. I know that. But when you think about the NFL as it is now, what do you see, and what are you talked about some of those quarterbacks earlier, but as an analyst, when you see some of these people play, some of the things they do, what do you like and what don't you like?
Well, I like that we're seeing some tremendous athletes that are playing the position. I mean, they're really remarkable. I mean, the game has changed. It used to be, I think, that guys were either athletic and they could run, or they were pocket passers and they could throw. And now it seems like virtually all of these guys are athletic and can run and throw from the pocket. You know, I mean, I just think their skill set has gotten so good that it's pretty remarkable to watch them. I think our game's in great hands with some of these young quarterbacks that we're seeing and the successes that they're having. I think what has probably changed, Buck, is that because of the rules and the protection, that there's less of a burden on the quarterback to actually kind of read things and protect the receiver. So quarterbacks are much more willing to throw the ball over the middle, lead a receiver into coverage, knowing that he's probably not going to take the big hit. Whereas when I was playing, gosh, you wouldn't attempt some of those throws. Just, you know, you'd have a receiver who's laid out. You know what I mean? So
you're calling their family like, I'm sorry, I got your husband and son, daughter killed.
Yeah, exactly. So you see a lot more of those types of things. Yeah. So in the game, it's a little bit of a different game, of course, than the one that we played, but that's okay. The fans seem to really enjoy it. It's a fast-paced game, high scoring. I think it's exciting. It's an exciting brand of football, and I've enjoyed my job broadcasting and kind of get the chance to be a part of it and get to know a lot of these players that are playing it.
Yeah, you know, Troy, it's interesting you bring that up, because the first thing that I thought about, I've known you a long time, but you seem so relaxed calling games. And I know fans initially, and social media is going to beat you up either way, right? But when I watch you call the Cowboys game, I can close my mind and think he's not, you know, that's not a Cowboys guy that played. You're very objective, and you've been able to do that. And you can call people out in a nice way and a not so nice way. I mean, you've had that ability since I've known you. What has it done for you? Because your personality seems to come out when you're calling games and when you're talking ball, because that's where you're comfortable in a lot of things, but it seems like you're really comfortable in that space.
Yeah. I'd say that it wasn't always that way. That it was kind of a fish out of water early on, and trying to everything happened so fast up in the booth, and it took some time for it to really kind of slow down, a lot like it does as a player when you're playing. I'm fortunate that Joe Buck and we've been working together 20 years, and we're good friends. So I think there's a comfort that comes with that. And going to the Cowboy thing, it's interesting because I think that a lot of Cowboys fans, it doesn't matter to me who wins and loses the games. I mean, it has no impact on me. I guess if I were to say that I'd love for the Cowboys to be really good, I'd love to see the Cowboys win a Super Bowl. But when I broadcast the games, all I hope for is good games. And so if a team is down, I do find myself kind of hoping that they'll go do something so that we can make this a game. But I think fans kind of hear what they want to hear. So when I do call a Cowboys game, I get a lot of Cowboys fans who think that I'm too critical of the Cowboys. And then the other fans of the opponent,
not critical enough.
They think I'm a homer. So it's kind of like, you can't win. And I know because I don't get too emotionally involved in many games, but I did get emotional about UCLA basketball in March Madness.
I was going to ask you that.
and when these announcers said something that went against my Bruins, I was like, no way, you don't know what you're talking about. That's not the way it happens. So I understand the passion for sure.
So were you couch coaching as much as I was? I was couch coach. I was cheering. I was like right in the. My wife Stephanie left. She said, "I can't watch this with you. I can't watch it."
It was the best, wasn't it? I mean, it was awesome. It's been too long, and so it was so fun. My daughter, my 18-year-old senior, she would watch these games with me. She got into it, and I had some buddies over for the game against Michigan, and it was just really exciting. I'm real proud of the players and Mick Cronin and all that they were able to do. I mean, it was just it brought back a lot of pride and a lot of enthusiasm for all of us that were at UCLA.
We're going to take a short break on Chopping It Up with Buck. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Mike Gardner, founder of Thin Energy, the wellness energy that delivers each and every time.
In 6 weeks that I've been taking Thin Energy, I feel fantastic.
I lost 7 pounds in the first week.
You just squeeze it in, you take a shot, and you're done.
Get your drinks, get you hype, get you ready.
I feel great.
Jump on, try Thin Energy.
Drink it, live it.
So I've been into photography for a number of years. I hadn't ever really pursued it and learned the craft the way that I'd wanted to. And I've spent time here in the last 3 or 4 off seasons. I've taken classes. I've been in classrooms. I've taken online courses, and I've worked with different professional photographers to try to learn the camera a little bit more. And so I've been on 2 safaris, photography safaris, and that's been a lot of fun for me. And I'm still not where I want to be, but I keep investing a little bit more of myself and learning a little bit more about it. The Peloton, I think with the pandemic, I'd go to SoulCycle and Flywheel, and I'd get out and jog and do all those things. But then with the pandemic, I got into the Peloton, and I think people's habits have kind of changed, and mine certainly did, to where I'm hopping on that bike and just trying to get my workouts in as best I can.
Well, Troy, I really appreciate it. What we're going to do is we usually go 2-minute drill, get you out of here real quick. Easy for you to do it. Got about 4 questions. I let you score and we make it happen. Best game you ever played?
Yeah, I'd say the 95 NFC Championship game against the Packers in Dallas was the best game I've ever played.
All right, you're moving down the field. You found me or Keith Jackson or Jay Novacek, one of the tight ends you had. All of them were better than me, but I'm glad.
That's not true. I was spoiled with some amazing tight ends. Even I had one in high school, squirrely guy, but Nathan Williams was his name. He was squirrely, but boy, he could catch the ball. So at every level, I've had good tight ends.
Well, who thinks they were your best receiver outside of Michael Irvin? Who thinks they were your best receiver out of Michael?
I'm sure it was Alvin Harper.
Okay.
I mean, Alvin. Yeah, I know for a fact it'd be Alvin Harper, who he thought he was our number one guy ahead of Michael. So.
He thought it was a 1A, 1B, or 1A1, 1A2.
Yeah, he was 1A and Michael was maybe 2B.
He got that ball way down the field. We're getting in scoring position. Hey, what was it? What was the story behind you going to see Deion's first game at Jackson State? I thought that was really cool, but what was the story behind that?
I was so proud of him taking that job. I know that what he's done with so many kids here in the area, coaching them, and his sons. He's coached his boys, and he's done a lot of good for a lot of kids. And for him to take on that job and really put himself on the line, I thought was really incredible. I think he's already doing an amazing job, and I don't care what it is on the field, even though, he's done a good job on the field and it's only going to get better. But the impact that he's making in that community there in Jackson, Mississippi, and with those kids, I don't think you can really put a price on that or measure the impact that he's having. So I couldn't be prouder of Deion. When I found, I didn't know they were playing in the spring, but then when I was told and I looked at the date and saw that I was free, I said, man, I'm going, and surprised him. But I was thrilled to be there. I can't wait to go back. I'm not done. I want to go back when they got full stands and the band going.
Yeah.
And it was electric the day I was there, and it was not at full capacity.
Make sure you see Eddie Payton too, Walter's brother, who is a great golf coach. He'll take you to some of the good golf courses there now. Eddie was a hell of a golfer. He coached
just as long as he doesn't make me golf.
He may want to play, or he'll show you if you like playing. He'll take you there. Hey man, it's been so good. We have to do this again because there's so much we can get into. I know we're short on time, but hey, thanks a lot, man. I appreciate you. I love you like a brother. We're all wishing Coach Shani, who makes this through. I know we're going to be in touch, and this is good because I think the thing people don't realize about you is if you're loyal to somebody, you are loyal. And that's the thing I've always told people about Troy Aikman. So glad to have you on the show, man.
I love you, Buck. You're the best. Thank you. Thank you for having me. And yes, let's do it again real soon too. Let's do it during the football season, and really appreciate you.
All right, man. Take care.
Hi, I'm Mike Gardner, founder of Thin Energy, the wellness energy that delivers each and every time.
In 6 weeks that I've been taking Thin Energy, I feel fantastic.
I lost 7 pounds in the first week.
You just squeeze it in, you take a shot, and you're done.
Get your drinks, get you hype, get you ready.
I feel great.
Jump on, try Thin Energy.
Drink it, live it.
Many people are looking for natural alternatives to help ease their aches and pains. Begin stopping the pain with the help of Pain Stopper. Formulated by healthcare providers, Pain Stopper helps alleviate a variety of physical ailments so you can get back to doing what you love. Our products are triple independently lab tested to ensure the highest quality hemp available. Visit PainStopCBD.com for more information. Pain Stopper, because why manage pain when you can stop it?
At Heslop Wealth Advisors, our goal is to help small businesses develop quality retirement plans for their employees through our Lunch and Learn seminars. We provide lunch and learning tools to help your company succeed and unmatched customer service.